blue. Let's try and pick up the pace a little bit. We kind of went long on white, but let's go a little quicker here. So, abstruse interference.
Mediocre. Next.
Yeah.
It's worth noting you always get the Scion.
And Scions are much better, actually, in this set just because of, hey, fixing.
Yeah, so one thing I'll explain quickly here. So that diamond symbol this is kind of a weird retroactive rule change WotC did. So anytime something makes or used to make like one or just specifically make a generic mana, that is now its own thing. It is colorless. So that diamond is colorless, which means it cannot be used to pay any colors, but it can be used to pay the one or the diamond. So it's true colorless, which is kind of a little weird. So if you have a land that has an option like, tap this to make a blue, or, tap this, do something else, and then make one, you could use that to pay the diamond. But you can't, tap an island to pay for a diamond, basically, because that has a color, so you can't use it.
Yeah. I mean, things functionally haven't changed at all. It's just the labeling is different now. Like generic, colorless mana is what colorless mana has always been. It just now more clear.
Now they can clearly they can clearly cost things for colorless mana.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's exactly how I feel. The devoid
it does leave things looking a little clunky on some of the cards, but
particularly
as for this card. This is like the softest counter that possibly exists.
Yeah, and I don't really like the upside. I'd like to point out, first of all, I don't think Devoid is really a thing for limited in this set. There's nothing that really combos off.
I mean, there are
a few creatures that depend on.
There's one in blue actually coming up in a little bit that is actually pretty good in a colorless deck, but with Devoid. But yeah, you do still get some amount of battle for Zendikar cards, but like I was saying, synergies are down here. You should just be focusing entirely on color and more just pure power level. And the thing about Devoid here is that there are actually a number of fixers that are colorless and devoid fixers, so they can give you colorless mana and also devoid mana, so that is potentially a factor.
Yeah, so either way, that's kind of like an next one, Blinding Drone.
I like it.
I love this card.
I'll play it. It's a 1/3, blocks forever, taps everything.
Yeah, this is good.
So
give me some of that.
So the one thing to keep in mind with these, and my personal rule with these cards that have colorless off activation stuff, treat the card as if it doesn't have that ability the majority of time when you're picking it, but if you get colorless, stuff to go on it, that's good. But just keep in mind, you're probably not going to have access to colorless mana the majority of times, because that's like having, a splash in a third color potentially.
Yeah, basically.
I'm doing the math yet.
That's how I would treat it. I would treat anything that you're expecting with the colorless mana, always treat it just as a third splash in limited, since you can't even go and pick the wastes from the basic land box. They've actually decided on that. It's if you open a card that makes colorless and that's all it does, you can use it, but there will not be a station where you can say I would like 13 wastes. That's just not a thing. So it's a splash that you have to have the mana fixing yourself. So in limited, that's rougher. In draft, that's really rough, because that means you're going to have to draft cards specifically to activate this, which is a hell of a thing. So
remember, there's a lot of lands that produce colorless in this format.
There are 5 common lands that produce colorless.
Sure, but you have to be... The more of those that you play that aren't producing colored mana, the less, colored mana. Actually, you have the very real risk of, making okay, I got enough colorless mana. Oh, crap, I can't actually cast my, my blue and black cards. It's like that's a very real risk.
3 of those commons also fix for mana, one way or another.
Yeah, though some of those are also cards that have traditionally been really bad.
Yes, but now they tap for a color instead of nothing.
But let's think about it this way. Just if you have a 1/3 for 2 by itself, okay.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, I'm fine with it.
It's okay.
If you get the gravy, the gravy's delicious. Basically, this is mediocre mashed potatoes, homemade gravy. It's kind of how I'm looking at it.
If you get the gravy on this card is fucking absurd.
It's so good. So
a 1-mana tapper is incredible.
That's
common.
Stupid. That's absolutely stupid at common. So yeah, I'd think of it that way. So mediocre mashed potatoes, fantastic gravy. Next card, Cultivate Bison.
This helps.
This is good.
This helps with the previous card.
Yeah. I mean,
Though it is worth noting that this card plus the previous card is basically that white card I didn't like. Because it's basically the whatever the card thing was called. Yeah. But yeah, it's a 2/3 for 3. That's good.
That has a ramp.
So casting other devoid and or colorless spells is
it's ramp too. That's a perfect. This is actually, I think, if you have to first pick this, you're not going to be that pissed. Yeah, you're not going to be happy, but you aren't going to be pissed.
It's a 2/3 for 3 with ramp. That's fine. That's something that there's cards like that. They exist. They're always fine. So I think those fine here too.
Yep.
All right. Well, next one, Gravity Negator. This.
I'm fine with a 2/3 flyer for 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's.
And then that ability is great.
Oh god, that's so good. It brings up a
Another
guy.
good one. So remember that whole thing we were talking about, how good it is to be able to give things flying? What if you could give a thing flying for 1 instead of, 1 and a white or whatever it was? That's great.
And have to have, and like that one also had the trigger of, you had to have a +1/+1 counter. This could be anything.
Yeah. So it's just you have to have that colorless activation mana. But yeah. I'm okay with it. This is, again, blue is a lot less interesting for us to talk about because it's been mostly just, okay. Yeah, why not? Sure, fuck it. I'll take it. All right.
Now let's talk about a 1/2 for 1.
Prophet of Distortion, a 1/2 for 1. All of our favorite cards.
It's decent.
I want to like this card. I probably like it more than I should.
It's a repeatable card draw.
It says
But
draw a
it's-
card right there.
But it's a mana sink with an off-color activation, and it's one that you probably won't have that many.
I don't care. It
lands
says
of.
draw a card.
Yeah, I
mean,
like it.
No, I
don't
think
like it.
late game, I'm going to have a way to generate a colorless mana,
But multiple, like if you're sacrificing spawn for this, how much do you hate your own?
No, I think I'm going to have a land in
hands.
that's colorless.
If I'm in sealed and I have one of these in my pool, I am going to probably try and make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this because 1/2 for 1. If that ability isn't on early game, you are just tearing this card up and throwing it away. It is garbo at that case. Like the late game side of it, sure, is great, but this isn't like a Zur Mage or whatever the one was that was 4 mana draw a card in blue. Like this is not that.
It's definitely something that I would consider. The thing that's weird about this is I would consider very heavily how many colorless sources you have, but I would not splash colorless sources in for it at all. But if you had 5 or 6 colorless sources, just, by chance you have something or you decide it's important enough to have a waste, okay, this becomes a little more interesting, but there's so many situations where it's a dead draw. God, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan just because 1/2 for 1 is so bad, but the card draw is right there, and it is repeatable. Ugh.
But like I said, if you have to kind of evaluate these, assuming you never get the ability, because the average case scenario is that's going to happen a lot of the time, and imagine this guy off the top of the deck if you're getting beat down.
No, there's times.
I think that there are not every deck is going to be the colorless deck that can reasonably produce colorless mana. I think that deck is going to exist.
And
But you have to devote picks to it. Ugh.
You do, and I think that's why that deck is going to exist because you're going to.
And there is still a lot of the Kozilek's Channeler, and then another colorless creature.
And I'm talking
in
about
this
Sealed
set too.
In particular is what I'm talking about. So in Sealed in particular,
In Sealed, this is garbo.
You can just look at it and say can I use this?
Well, Sealed, you'll know if you can use it or
exactly.
not.
Right. Yeah, you'll just open your pack and be like, okay, how many lands do I have that do it? 2. No, okay, not playing that. Something like that. But if it's not something that I would try really hard to play, but if I have a deck that happens to support it, I'm okay with it. But I'm not going to build towards it.
This card is especially good if you end up with any of the colorless matters stuff, though, from Battle for Zendikar, because this is a very easy way to trigger that sort of stuff. And the buffs adding onto this makes this card much better if you do happen to get any of that.
But what if this were a 2/2 instead? Because you got that one card that gives all your colorless creatures +1/+0.
See, in that case, you're good.
Yeah. All right. So situational needs to be kind of evaluated on a deck by deck basis, as it were. Next one.
Situational cards are situational.
Yeah. 1 second. My setup fricked up again. Thanks, Obama. Let me go ahead and do a thing real quick here. 265 373. Next card, by the way, when it does pull up here, is Slip Through Space.
I like
Made
it.
a draw card.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's one mana draw card, and also the thing it does is actually just really good because this is a lot of stalled board states. This ends games.
One of my biggest and most vocal complaints about Battle for Zendikar was that a lot of the big scary monsters never got to do anything.
Yeah.
This does make them do stuff, yeah.
I get to punch him in the face. It also enables another mechanic that we'll look at in a little bit.
Yeah, I like it. It's good. It just works. Okay. Thought Harvester.
This is really good.
2/4 flyer for 4. Yeah, that's
I'm
really
in.
what I need.
And well, that ability on it is actually just really good and limited. Like, for one, if you get any processors from Battle for Zendikar where they care about stuff being exiled, this is like a freebie. Like, you just cast them and you immediately get the stuff off of it. Like, this is immediately, I automatically enable all processors. And also, like, given how small deck sizes can be, like, in limited, if you just put, like, some of these guys out there and, like, you can make the board so nobody can move, if you're playing colorless, they're going to lose the game actually pretty quickly if it's just a stalled board state. And this blocks pretty well
And
in the air.
it blocks well.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, but your 2/4 flyer might very well just win a stalled board state
It can.
faster than you mill someone out anyways.
Yeah, I think
sure,
this guy's
but
probably just going to attack for enough to
Sure,
win it.
but it's all upside. It just basically means that this ends games, regardless of what you're doing. As long as you're in blue, it ends games. If you're in colorless and blue, it ends games even more.
Yeah, is good. Could be good plus. Good. I like it. Play it. If you're going in blue, fucking roll it. Nice. Void Shatter. How are we feeling about this? It's the 3 cost
Strictly
counter.
better than Dissipate.
Dissipate's a really good card.
Dissipate but colorless.
Yeah.
I will say that I will point out cancel type spells like this are really, really good and sealed because everybody's trying to play bombs. You just keep this up, take care of the bomb, you are way ahead. Like these Sarita cards are great in sealed. In limited, they're fine. They're like not nearly as great because you don't have as much, trying to strain yourself to get towards bombs because there's a little bit more synergy. But in sealed, cancels are fantastic.
Question in chat was, what does exiling do? So basically in Magic the Gathering, if something dies, it goes to your graveyard. The thing about the graveyard, which is basically kind of like your used pile, your dead stuff pile, there's a lot of stuff in Magic that can pull shit out of there or looks for things in there or something. Exile is you take it and say, not in the game anymore. Like, you just take it and put it into a zone that is just, you put it in the own zone. You put it in the fitty zone. It's just not interacted with unless something very specifically says fuck with the exile zone, which is rare but actually happened in the last set a little bit. But either way, exile is basically like any card that's like pull it from your graveyard. You're just like no, you don't get to. No, fuck off, it's gone. So more or less, if you do this to somebody's bomb, if somebody's like, I play an 8-mana nuclear bomb, and you're just like, no, you don't, and then they're like, oh, well, I go to get, no, you can't. It's gone. It's out. So basically, there's 3 mana. Something your opponent just did doesn't happen ever for that game. So that's fucking fantastic. Super playable.
And plus, there are stuff that actually care about stuff being in exile in the Eldrazi. The Eldrazi care about that because the Eldrazi are fucking weird Lovecraftian things.
Yeah, so good. Play it. Nice. Next card. Just a second. It's being weird again. God. I don't know what's going on this.
I love crabs.
So next card is the crab. It's an ancient crab.
I like crabs.
I like this card just because it's a crab.
Forever.
It's just a crab.
Crabs are fun.
It's not like
they're good
a
things.
magic crab or anything. It's just some fucking crab that's old.
Just old.
He just wants to move around. He's tired of being near all this horse shit. He's going away. He's going to go find some stuff. As a card, he's he's pretty mediocre.
Yeah, it's okay. It's like a horn turtle, but a little bigger, but much harder to cast. So
Yeah, you don't really want to be having something with double blue for something as unremarkable as this. But if you're in heavy blue, it's not the worst case in the world. I still wouldn't like it. Okay.
Sometimes you need a creature with a big butt to block forever.
Sure, and sometimes you just need to play cards that aren't great. This is like a livable one. I don't want it.
Yeah.
But I want it.
I wouldn't be like, oh boy, got me the crabs. But it
I mean,
sucks.
I would just
It
to fuck with
blocks.
people.
It slows down a game. So, whoop. Comparative anal cyst. Let's see. Surge. That's one. That's a weird one.
That exists.
yeah, so now we can explain what Surge is, or at least you can see what it is. This is the mechanic I was referencing on Slip Through Space as being an enabler for.
Oh yeah.
So
Surge.
this is
Oh, go ahead.
this is I was gonna say like this is basically a strictly better version of a card that we've had previously, which name escapes me.
Inspiration and We Fate.
Yes, and those cards are pretty playable.
Fine.
Yeah, especially if you're in like a controllers thing where you have other stuff to do on their turn, it's great. And okay, here, I mean, maybe we just want to get down to this. Is there such a thing as a Surge deck? I say no. I think Surge is just gravy.
It's just meant for. It's just kind of meant for the two-headed giant thing, and
I mean, you
I
can,
want there are cards that want you to cast 2 spells a turn, and
4 mana
See,
draw
I don't
2,
think-
acceptable.
I want it to be real.
4
see,
mana
the thing
draw
is-
2, good enough. 3 mana draw 2, hell yeah. That's kinda how I'm
see,
looking
the way
at it.
I look at this is like, if imagine this, okay, if, you're on turn 5, you have 5 mana, you also draw like a 2/2 off the top of your deck for 2, you can cast both of them, that's just gravy. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not strictly better, or rather, it is better than it just being just not there at all. But it's not like, wow, complete blowout, man. Like I'm ruling this game. Like I don't think there's actually a Surge. I mean, they act kind of set up there to be like a bit of a Surge deck, but I don't think there really is.
So just for
Because they
people-
remembered to put prowess in here.
Yeah, just for people who are wondering what is Surge, Surge is basically combo from Hearthstone. It's just if you have played something else earlier in that turn, you get to play it for a different cost, which is less. So just instead of costing 4, if you've already played something earlier, it costs 3. Cool. All that extra text
or
is just
a
saying,
teammate.
Yeah, all that extra text is just if you're playing one of the co-op formats, basically, of Magic. Which yes, there are co-op formats. That's a real thing. It works for those two. It'll also trigger on your teammates. So yeah, I mean it's fine if you do happen to get the Surge. That's good. It's blue. It draws cards. Cool. Containment Membrane. I like this.
This is one of the worst of these we've had for ages, but it's also what it is. So it's fine. It's good.
It's
It's good.
very important because I got owned by not realizing this from a different card last pre-release. This does not tap the
It
creature
does not
when it enters
tap
the
the-
battlefield.
No, it does not tap the creature.
No. Don't put this on a Vigilance. Don't.
Oh God, you'll get owned.
I saw somebody
Yep.
put this on a Vigil, or not this, but like another one that was just doesn't, or no, they put it on something and it was doesn't untap but does tap it, and then they just used a different skill that untap the creature. Is what it was. So Vigilant, since you don't need to tap, you can just keep bonking them anyway. But this is okay. I mean, honestly, this is one of those things too where Surge may not so much be a thing, but this Surge cost is so damn low that I think Surge is a thing with Containment Membrane because it's 1. Like, it's
Well,
one.
the thing
That's
to
enough.
consider is that chances are any other spell you're casting, unless it's something like if you're looking at the name Slip Through Space, it means that you're still basically you still can't play this before turn 3 mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not
Which
something
means
I
you
would
do
want to
this
play.
on the same turn as something else.
This basically just means, the Surge just means for this is that, hey, if you draw this off the top of the deck, it's better than it would have been otherwise. Because you can play out, a big dude, and if you have a mana free, you can also cast this with Surge, which is upside. You just don't try to build around like, man, I'm going to enable so much Surge, because the value really isn't there outside of like mythic rare.
Yeah, it's really not. And the other thing too is this is basically just a worse claustrophobia that has a chance of being incredibly cheap and being okay then. But
Honestly, for me, the cost versus effect is somewhere between 1 and 2 mana, like not quite 1, not quite 2. So this is like slightly less than I think this cost in the first place for the Surge cost. So
See, I don't know. I think this is. I would play like 3 of these in a blue deck theoretically.
3?
Like, yeah, man. Blue doesn't get good removal. This is
this
blue's
is
removal.
blue's removal, but
Man, you need removal even if it's not the great stuff. And
I'd
if,
rather some
I would
rules from
definitely
other
run
colors.
2. I could definitely run 2 it without.
If I play
without
blue green, I'll
batting
play
an
any
eye.
number of these because I need it. But
yeah.
any other
Blue green,
combination,
you've got
there's
problems
enough
already.
removal.
Yeah. Can we just move on to the next
Yeah,
card
let's
so
move
we
on
can
to
finally
this.
talk about how so good it is?
Yeah. So Cyclone Sire. This
Yeah.
I'm good with
this
this.
rules.
I want to kiss this tornado.
I would like to put my my lips in and around this tornado. This is great. So this is a 3/4 flyer, which by the way, remember that time I said like a 2/3 flyer for 5 was like okay, like a 2/4 flyer for 5 is like workable. 3/4 flyer for 5, I would play. Like even just pretend the rest of this text isn't here.
Yep.
Just pretend the card looks like. Well, let's pretend it looks like this. It's just 5 costs. 5 flying and 3/4. Perfect. And then it gets the
This
thing
is
where if it dies, it pops a land into a guy with haste. Okay.
One interesting thing to keep in mind: this is nearly air elemental, and air elemental for the longest time was one of the best cards in limited period.
It was a limited bomb back
still
in
one of the
4th
best cards in
edition.
limited.
It still is, but like for like decades, like Magic Online is doing like a retro like flashback drafting where they're doing all the sets in modern right now.
It's
And
really fun.
I did an 8th edition draft and I got 9th edition draft and I got fucking hosed by an air elemental and it sucked. That format also sucks, by the way. But that particular
It's the
instance
worst.
sucked real bad. Oh. But anyways,
so
this
basically
card's
it's a 3/4 that flies for 5, which is great. And then when it dies, it makes a 3/3, just like standard, just a 3/3.
It's value.
And the only thing
And
you
I-
need to trigger the 3/3 is have a land. So hopefully by the time you're able to pay for this is good. This is good, people. This is something that I would gladly first pick this if I was going blue. Not a question.
Absolutely.
about
I
it.
would first pick this in any case.
Yeah, I will also point out that if your land gets destroyed here, you care so much less because of this. Because 1, they already blew a removal to get rid of your Cyclone Sire anyways, and 2, you're at like 5 mana at this point. You care much less about lands at this point than you did with the 3 mana white one that's kind of like this with the ETB. So
Yeah.
this is just good all around.
Because this is going to be a little bit later, and then the other thing is the upside is great. I'd say, yeah, this is probably the best card we've seen tonight so far.
Yep.
White and how far we've gotten blue. This is just gross. This is just a 3/4 with flying is a huge fucking problem. And then after they deal with the problem, which they probably do by like, using a kill attacking creature or something of that nature, or -4/-4, however they do it. Okay, they solve that problem. There's another thing too. Fuck off. Like, this is great. This
Important
is
to note.
super good. Yeah.
A lot of removal in this format exiles and doesn't kill, which means that they don't get the dice trigger.
Yeah. So, and the other thing too is, this draws removal. It's just so many good things, and it only costs 1 blue instead of 2. So, like, this is even a splash consideration. Like, that's the thing is, this is good enough for me to consider this a splashable card too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This owns. This is good as fuck. Yeah. Congrats, blue. Good as hell. I love it. All right, let's look at the next card here. Gift of Tusks.
How'd you like to be an elephant for a little while?
Just a little
I would.
elephanting. Just a little elephant.
Just a bit.
It has its uses. Blue gets
okay.
these abilities once in a while, and they look better than they really are.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
know about
not.
this one.
This isn't
This
astounding.
works really nice with Awakened Lands.
Yeah, it
True.
does.
That's true. I haven't thought of that.
But it's not crazy. I think it's a fine combat trick if you get it good. You maybe play it if you have spaces for it. It's not the worst combat trick if you're in blue, because blue doesn't actually have much in the way of combat tricks in this set other than like bouncing a little bit. It's fine.
It costs 1.
It's unexciting.
So it's unexciting. It would see use, but it would not see a ton of use. So
Kill an Ulamog before it attacks.
yeah, more or less. All right, next card, Grip of the Royal.
It's Crippling Chill, but better.
Yeah, it's fine. It's 3 mana draw card, which is something that that's not enough on its own, but it's something that if you see that cantrip, that's a pretty big consideration. But just frost something for that. And if you do get the surge, then it's really good.
Yep.
Yeah, it's okay. And if it
Well,
gets the surge,
just without the surge cost, the 3 mana frost draw card is that's playable.
that's totally playable, yeah. And if you get the surge, it's just extra good. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's not a wonderful card, but it does a thing, and it's not without value.
Yeah. All right. Dwar Isle Avenger.
This is an excellent card.
This is also
I'm okay with the 3/3 for 5 flyer.
yeah. Remember that
And then
time?
the surge is just upside. Yeah.
Remember that time we were like super excited about a 3/4 flyer for 5 that did all this stuff? This is a 3/3 flyer for 5, and we're still all willing to be like, okay. So
Also common.
also common. So like having a big flyer
sometimes you
in
get to
common is aggressive, and it's fine early, it's fine late. Like let's say you do get to turn 5, you can play this, and it's not the worst thing you've done all night. And if you have a 2 mana cost card, you can play that and then also play this, and that's pretty good. So I like it. It's solid.
Mind you, like I said before, most common creatures that fly don't go above 2/2, and this does.
Yep.
Blue usually gets one of these flyers every set. Plus, sometimes you either get to cast it for a little less if you have a 1-cost card, or you get to play it as a second card in your turn, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's solid. It can be a solid basic ass card, or it can be a pretty good, more interesting card. All right, negate. Okay.
Standard sideboard card.
Fine with it existing.
I mean, I will just say one thing about this: better than sealed.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
So
A reminder is, spells or creatures do count as spells, but this specifically says no creature, so it has to be like a sorcery or an instant or something like that. But either way, just having
Back
2
in
mana.
my day, we counter
mana.
any spell for 2 mana.
Yeah, but all those times we talk about combat tricks too, this is another answer, since usually you attack and then you do your stuff. If you attack and they're like, oh, actually I make everything have +1/+0 and give it invulnerable, you just, no. Okay. And like, it's a good thing. This is one of those things that it's just nice to have on hand. I would probably run 1 or 2 normally, but I wouldn't hate having sideboards.
If you're in blue, generally you want this in your sideboard, in your draft deck.
Yeah.
Because just in case somebody gets that windmill slam planeswalker, no, I have to beat this, so...
in case someone gets the next card we're going to talk about, for example, this is a good thing to have in your sideboard.
Yeah, hello, Roiling Waters.
I want to play 10 of them.
Uncommon sorcery.
Oh my god, it's a 4-for-1.
It's
a 4-for-1.
I see it says draw 2 cards.
I want to play all of them.
You might think like, oh, this just bounces shit and stuff, but Jesus fucking Christ, the turnaround is very expensive. You don't want to have too many 7-cost cards, but
you can't really run 2 7-drops very well.
Yeah, but
I want to, though.
Jesus.
My name is LSV. I can play any number of 7-drops I want.
Jesus Christ! Return 2.
This is
creatures,
LSV's favorite card.
and
I'm
then
sure
draw
of it.
2 cards. So just imagine. Even if it's like a small thing, you pay 7 mana, bounce, because it's obviously going to be later game. You're not playing this early. You bounce like a 3/4 and something like a 3/4 and a 2/2, and then draw 2 cards. Like, that's a pretty bad case for this card, and it's still really good. And also, let's say they had one of the Awoken Lands. You just got even more then, because you just
that's right.
bounce it.
It doesn't say creature.
It's bounce, so you can just bounce a Awoken Land to their hand, and then congrats, their 3/3 with haste is now just a forest, and so you can remove that too. So that's even more. That's potential, and I don't like.
It's also really
potential.
good against like auras and of course supports in this set, and it's a big thing. So anybody dumping all their +1/+1 counters on a creature just gets completely hosed as well. Like this card is just insane. Like, this reminds me a lot of Sea God's Revenge from Theros, which was probably one of the best cards in that entire set.
This is the kind of card.
Isn't that the one that did like Scry 3?
No, it's bounce 3, Scry 1.
Right.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that Scry 1 on it.
This is the kind of thing, though, that if I get to fire this card, I'm gonna like lean over to the person at the spot next to me and just high five them. And they'll be like, "What?" And I'll be like, "Got a Roiling Waters." And just hell yeah. So like this is good. This is good.
Well, I'm gonna I would eye up my pool for things like Kozilek's Predator because if I can get that going early, if I can get that cast earlier than turn 7, I am a very happy person.
Yeah. So Sweep Away. This is considerably less exciting.
This is still really good.
It's still
Pretty
really
good.
It's still really
Instant
good, especially
speed time on an attacker.
Yeah,
God,
part 2
this
is-
card is like
yeah.
it's
this-
slightly overcosted as like just a bounce spell, but then
the
putting on
second-
top of library is
Yeah.
like
It's brutal.
So here's the thing you need to take into account when it comes to bounce to hand versus bounce to top of library. So basically, if you bounce to hand, that means they then still get to draw the card at the beginning of their turn, and then they can just play it again. If you put it at the top of their deck, it basically means you did the same thing, except you said also you don't get to draw at the beginning of your turn. So
And the other key thing is that bouncing to hand is technically you're down on cards compared to them, whereas bouncing to the top of their library means that you're at card neutral and you bought a lot of tempo. Like you basically made them waste their entire turn.
yeah, bouncing to library is super nice, and since it is limited is a format, all limited, where creatures attack. It's one of those things where creature attacking is not some big, like, ridiculous condition. That's going to be happening all the time. So Sweep Away is fairly consistently going to be a 3-cost bounce to top of library, which is super workable and common. Hey, Blue, how's it going so far in Sealed?
And sometimes you just want to bounce into the hand and win.
Yeah, and
sometimes you
you
need to get a blocker out of the way.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to be like, oh, you just keep blocking me with your 7/7 repeatedly. Fuck your 7/7 and then just push all your damage through. Yeah, this is
Also,
great.
unlike some recent bounce effects, this can also save your own guys.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
just bounce it to your hand if something's about to die. That's true.
Probably don't want to if your creature's attacking though.
Yeah. Okay. Umara Entangler.
I like it.
Flying body and prowess is my favorite new mechanic that's been introduced in a long time.
I fucking love prowess. I think this is actually my favorite, like, just non-flying ability, like, period. It's just so fun. But yeah, this is generic enough, but still good enough. Like, you shouldn't necessarily be building crazily around this to try to make this like into the surge deck to do anything absurd. But the value you get out of this, like, all your combat tricks are better. You just occasionally just get just generic value. Like, even if you're not trying to combat trick, you can draw a card into combat tricks. You know, screw it. It's just good. It's good.
The Devoid one that draw a card can't be blocked. Is
Yeah,
her
pretty
best
good with
friend.
this one.
Yep.
And a big thing too is 2/1 is considerably better than 1/2 because whereas 1/2 doesn't survive that many more things, 2/1 kills a shitload more things. Also, prowess isn't a hard thing to get to trigger. You just play an instant or a sorcery or, you know, like one of those many things we saw that were like, oh, it costs 1, you know, oh, it costs 2. If you do that, then you have a 3/2 for a turn. That doesn't sound very exciting, but at 2 mana, that's totally workable, and it's something that's not going to, you know, it's not going to screw you.
And if you
for a common and a 2 slot, this is fine.
If you follow constructed, you have seen prowess do some ridiculous things.
Yep. I will also point out that the other advantage of a 2/1 versus a 1/2 is that a 2/1 can kill you in 10 turns. A 1/2 can kill you in 20 turns. That is a big gap. Like the space between 2 power and 3 power and 2 power and 1 power. The 2 power and 1 power is such a more massive gap because like a 3 power can kill you in like 7 turns. The space between 7 turns and 10 turns is almost nothing, whereas the space between 10 turns and 20 turns is huge.
I would
Yeah.
pause it to say it's about 3 times as much.
Yes, you could in fact say that.
Yeah, so pretty good. As far as commons go, I'm okay with it. Blue is doing surprisingly okay
Also,
with creatures.
an ally.
Also an ally. Oh, nice.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. So final of the blue common uncommons. Unity of Purpose.
Remember Triton
Barf.
Tactics? This isn't Triton Tactics.
This is garbage.
I have
I
cast
hate it.
Triton Tactics, and there are no Triton Tactics.
Ugh.
This is a fun.
4 mana for a combat trick. Ugh.
And it's
And not even a great one.
Not even a good combat trick. Like, this is kind of balls. Like, the thing is...
And there are going to be times when you lose to this card.
This would this would work best in an aggro deck, but it's blue. It's kind of what's fun.
I mean, there is a blue-white, like, you know, sort of aggro flyers deck, to be fair.
Yeah.
This
blue
is just
sometimes is a tempo deck, but yeah, this is much more defensive and doesn't really go into tempo that well.
Yeah.
Like, because this
this,
would be
like,
if you're
gets your
attacking with
opponent-
things and then need to quickly block with them and leave 4 mana up. 4 mana for this, really?
I wish this didn't have 4 mana and I could just get a bunch of Awakened lands out.
4 mana, really? Yeah, I mean, like, if you're already running support, then it could be a shitty combat trick.
I'd rather just have something else.
Yeah. There's never a time that I just find this and think is excited. Like,
If I'm running combat tricks and stuff in like a support deck with allies and stuff, and I wanted a blue card in it, I'd put in the Umara and Tagler.
Jace is looking as far away from the mana cost as he can because he's trying to say, no, this is good, I'm not owned.
So I will point out, there is one reason I would really say this is actually pretty okay to play. If you get a Step Glider or anything else that cares about +1/+1 counters, this is fine. But beyond that, you probably could find places to get these counters much easier. So let's move on to a color that's awesome.
4 cost is a bit much. And yeah, quick break and